Hey Chaotic Crew, Brian here, and this time we are doing a Precon upgrade of Eternal Might, the new Esper Precon from Magic the Gathering Aetherdrift. Such a fun zombie typal kindred, whatever you want to say, deck here, and lots of fun to be had. This is a draw, discard strategy with zombies. We saw a similar deck previously in March of the Machines with the Knight Kindred deck, where you wanted to draw and discard a lot of Knights to the bin and then reanimate them. Now for this one, they kind of went a bit more in the aristocrat side of things. I don't know about that, but we're going to go through the deck here, and then I'm going to tell you 15 cards I would take out, 15 cards I would put in to make it a little more consistent and hit harder in your local game night. So let's get into it. First up, the commander, Timid Noctimoon's Will. So 2 of anything, white, blue, black for a 4/4 zombie wizard. It has Vigilance and Menace. Whenever you attack, you draw a card and then you discard a card. And then whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this is really good. You could kind of go a little bit of different directions with here, right? With the first ability, being able to draw and discard anytime you attack, but then you really get the benefit of itself, I guess if you wanted to go Voltron, but a zombie Kindred deck with the second ability with, buffing all your zombies. So, yeah, like I said, you could go Voltron here and just draw a ton of cards and make Timid huge, but this deck really loves to go wide. So, the creatures in here, there's 35 of them, which is a lot for any deck. We've got Crypt Breaker. It's 1/1 zombie for 1, makes tokens by discarding cards, and it can draw you cards later on, so it's pretty nice. Gravecrawler, fantastic to have in the deck. It can be cast from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie, so this card is definitely a part of a lot of infinite combos, so we're not running any of those as far as I'm concerned in this deck, but if you want to go that strategy, this is a great reprint here. Binding Mummy, whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you may tap target artifact or creature. This can just help your zombies get through, which is really great when you're going wide. Sometimes your power is not quite there. Corpse Knight, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life, so it's part of that aristocrat strategy like we were talking about. Hashaton, Scarab's Fist. So this is the alternate commander of the deck. It is, Orzhov to cast, but it has blue in the ability and in the identity, so still an Esper commander. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 of anything in a blue. If you do, create a tapped token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. I think this is a super fun card to build around too, but I think it works really well in the 99 of Timid, because Timid is already a draw and discard engine, so Hashaton kind of gets put online by that. Lazatep Chancellor, 2 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you discard a card, you can pay 1 mana to amass 2. Amass, if you're not familiar, you make a zombie army token, and if you don't have one already, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. If you already have an army token, you just put 2 more +1/+1 counters on it. We've got a new card, Ret Tomb Mystic, 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. It gives each creature card in your hand cycling 1 in a blue. So really good to help fill your graveyard with creatures and getting you some semi-card draw, I guess looting, right, to do that. Undead Augur, 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever it or another zombie you control dies, you draw a card and you lose a life. So really good here to, if you have a sacrifice engine with your commander, to buff your board by sacrificing a couple zombies. Wayward Servant, another 2 mana zombie here. Whenever another one enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So again, following that sort of aristocrat theme of the deck. Wizened Mentor, a new 2-drop. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a permanent that isn't a mana ability, you create a 1/1 white zombie creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. I love the callback to Hardened Mentor from the original Amonkhet block, but this is super cool too and can make you some zombie tokens, which is nice. Also, all these low drop zombies are really great to have because you want a zombie out, whether it's a token or not, to be able to start, drawing you and discarding you cards as soon as you can cast Timid. So You really want that to happen when you play Timid. Up next, we have Cemetery Reaper, which is a great lord for zombies and can, deal with some graveyards in some ways. It can't really touch on instant sorceries, but it can remove a creature at instant speed, which is nice. Champion of Wits isn't a zombie, but with the Eternalize abilities, and they have a couple more cards in here. They become zombies when they come back out on the battlefield. And this is sort of a way to draw a couple cards, discard a couple cards, and then when you Eternalize it, you draw 4 and discard 2. So, not bad. Fleshbag Marauder, you make it so each player sacrifices a creature. You can choose a token, or typically Fleshbag Marauder if you don't have one of those. Gleaming Overseer is another amass card, and it also gives zombie tokens you control Hexproof and Menace, so good way to help damage get through. Lord of the Accursed, 3 mana for another zombie lord, buffing them all, and you can pay to give them Menace as well, so really strong there when you need it. Midnight Reaper, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to you when you draw a card, so some solid draw engines in the deck as we, lose our creatures. Murderous Rider is a great removal spell with the adventure side of it, and then it's also a zombie, so nice to have there. Plague Belcher is interesting, 3 mana for a 5/4. It's a big body, and essentially you put 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature you control, so, typically a 1/1 or a 2/2 token, and then whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, so kind of fitting that aristocrat theme that the deck has going. Zombie Master is 3 mana for a 2/3. Zombies in play gain Swamp Walk, and pay a black to regenerate for as long as it remains in play. This is nice to have. There's a lot of black in Commanders, so typically making all your zombies unblockable to that one player makes it safer for them to attack in, so that you can draw and discard with your commander. So that's nice to have there. And then we have Corpse Augur. When it dies, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. We are going to be putting a lot of creatures ourselves in the grave, so you could always target ourselves with this. But if an opponent has a better graveyard deck that's popping off more, we could do that. Forgotten Creation. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may discard all the cards in your hand. If you do, draw that many cards. So, this is a really great way to buff up your board, right, on the beginning of your turn with Timid's second ability, but also a good way to refresh your hand. So, solid there. And then Lost Monarch of Ifnir, a great new card. Afflict 3, which means when it becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life, and then other zombies you control have Afflict 3. So if you're swinging wide with a lot of zombies, if they're 2/2s, they're not really worth blocking. So it's pretty great to give that to zombies here. And at the beginning of your second main phase, if a player was dealt combat damage by a zombie, mill 3 cards, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is honestly really great too, because you're going to be attacking with two zombies, 1/1 zombies. So it makes it sort of a game of whether to take an extra damage or to let you mill 3 cards and then return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Priest of the Crossing is another new card, 4 mana for a flying zombie. At the beginning of each instant, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of creatures that died under your control this turn. So that can be good, especially if you have some sacrifice energies, or maybe decaying zombies are a great way to sort of put Priest of the Crossing on the map. A Vizier of Many Faces is essentially a clone that you can embalm later to become a zombie. Angel of Sanctions is essentially an Oblivion Ring on a stick that you can also make a zombie by embalming. Archfiend of Ifnir, not a zombie, but whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control, so really strong there in this discard heavy deck. Eternal Skylord, a 5 mana zombie that is amassing and then gives your tokens flying, which is really good to help get them through as well. Giving them flying is a great way to give evasion. Garner Eternal Oketra is a 3/6 zombie with double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance, and then when it dies, you can put it into your library, third from the top, which is pretty great. Prophet of the Scarab is a new card as well. Vigilance for and a 3/4. With it, when it enters, you draw cards equal to the number of zombies you control, or the number of zombie cards in your graveyard, whichever is greater. So, very good card there. You're going to be drawing lots of cards because of the deck is naturally putting zombies into your grave. The Scarab God in the deck, each opponent's losing X life, and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, and then you can, make zombie tokens of creatures in graveyards. So another good graveyard hate card, even though it does require some mana for it. Timeless Dragon, another, it's a good card for plane cycling, right? But you can also eternalize it to make it a 4/4 zombie dragon. And then Gem Palm Polluter is a 2 or 6 mana 4/3, but when you cycle it, you may have target player lose a life for each zombie in play. So if you've got a handful of zombies, pay 2 mana to draw a card and have someone lose 5 life. That's not bad. Grave Titan, when it enters or attacks, you get 2/2 black zombies. Twisted Abomination is just a big zombie with, swamp cycling, and you can regenerate it. And then Rot Hulk is really good. You can return to X, zombies from your graveyard to the battlefield for X is the number of opponents you have. So really strong card here to help, graveyard recursion in the deck. Probably something I'm thinking this deck is lacking is more graveyard recursion. We'll see some more cards that we add that help with that. As well. Liliana Death's Majesty in the deck, it makes 2/2 zombies, and you mill 2 cards with the plus. Minus is some graveyard recursion, and then -7 destroys all non-zombie creatures. So really good in the deck here. Spells, you have Swords to Plowshares, Dam as a good removal or board wipe, D-Spark. Dread Summons is nice to make a bunch of zombie tokens, but you are milling other people, and that may help some other decks, right? So you might be playing against some other graveyard decks. Pull from Tomorrow is drawing X cards and discarding a card. Commence the End Game is drawing cards, and then you amass X, and then it can't be countered. Never and Return is alright. You're destroying a creature or planeswalker, and then you're exiling a card from a graveyard and making a 2/2 creature. So not amazing here. Dusk and Dawn is a great removal plus recursion card. Dawn unfortunately doesn't bring him to the battlefield, but you can bring him back to your hand. All creatures with mana value 2 or less, if I'm not mistaken. Then Artifacts is mainly just a ramp package. We have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Dimir, Orzhov, Signet, Talisman of Dominance, Talisman of Hierarchy, Bantu's Monument, which is great. A lot of your creatures in the deck are black. You have a good number that aren't, but a lot of them are, and they'll cost 1 less to cast, including your commander, and then whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, so fitting in again with that aristocrat theme. Commander Sphere's nice. Crowded Crypt is been meh, but it's whatever. Gates of the Afterlife is interesting. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you gain 1 life, so this is a way to sort of gain some of the life we're paying for a lot of the cards, and then you can draw a card and discard a card. You can also pay 2, sacrifice Gate to the Afterlife only if you have 6 or more creatures in your graveyard, and search your library or hand for a card named Godpharaoh's Gift and put it onto the battlefield. Obviously, if that comes in the deck as well, it's a 7 mana artifact. Beginning of combat, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie and gains haste. So sort of little faux, creature recursion. And then we have Maskwood Nexus, probably in the deck to help with the cards that aren't exactly zombies unless you eternalize them, like Champion of Wits. So something to keep in mind there. Dreadhorde Invasion amasses 1 at your upkeep and loses a life, and then can make your zombie tokens have lifelink. Renewed Solidarity is a new enchantment for Kindred decks, buffing those creatures, and then you make a token, or for each token that entered this turn of that type, you make another token that's a copy of it, so that's really good. Cast Out, just removal that you can cycle, and then a new card on Wings of Gold, an enchantment that gives zombies and or tokens +1/+1 in flying, and then whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you make a 1/1 white zombie creature token, so solid there. Lands, there's not really a whole lot to go here. There's a new card, a Cursed Dunyard. Don't know how this is in the desert, but it is what it is. You can add a colorless, or you can pay 2 to regenerate, and tap this to regenerate target Shade, Skeleton, Spectre, Spirit, Vampire, Wraith, or Zombie. Not an amazing card, but not terrible either. Unholy Grotto is a great reprint to get zombies from your graveyard back on top of your library. And other than that, like I said, nothing really crazy, just a lot of decent stuff. If you wanted to take some more cards out, you could take out a few lands, probably these 3 deserts you don't need in the deck, and you can put in 3 new strong cards, but I think we should just go ahead and get right into what I'm taking out, what I'm going to add. I think to start off with, these cards that are eternalizing, Angel of Sanctions, Champion of Wits, Timeless Dragon. I think I kept the Vizier of Many Faces just because it can become a copy of a zombie, right, or whatnot. It's still pretty good as a clone. But these 3 you definitely want to take out. Doesn't really work with your zombie synergy unless you're putting them in the graveyard, and you don't have to be doing that every turn. You really rather be running more zombie synergy cards in your deck. So that's my thoughts on that. And I'm also taking out most of our Amass package, if not all of it. It's nice to, that you can give zombie tokens flying with Eternal Skylord, and you can give Menace with Gleaming Overseer, but Amass only gives you 1 token at a time. It's really not worth it in my opinion, so taking out cards like those and Lazotep Chancellor just, makes it easier to put better cards in your deck. Grave Titan, I don't think Grave Titan's inherently terrible, but it itself isn't a zombie, and for our cards that care about zombies, it can be a struggle sometimes. Plague Belcher is interesting. It kind of fits that aristocrat strategy, but also it is not really it's not really doing everything we want it to, so there's that. Dread Summon, or I guess I skipped some creatures. Ret 2 Mystic, giving each of our cards in our hand cycling. We're already discarding with our commander and with some of the other cards we've added, so this is nice, but pretty mana intensive, right? I think it's amazing in a deck that, wants cycling or wants more drawing and discarding. I don't think we need more of that really right now, but it is really cool. It is a cheap zombie with flying that can get in, so maybe that's a reason to keep it in if you need one. And then Twisted Abomination is just too big. We don't have a ton of recursion in the deck, so it really isn't doing a whole lot in the deck. You don't want to draw it, and putting it in the graveyard's fine, I guess, but not amazing. Dread Summons, I think I alluded to this earlier, it's kind of poised to help your opponents out too sometimes, plus it makes your tokens tapped. Not what you want out of a mass token generator. Never Return is just slow and doesn't do a whole lot. 4 mana to exile 1 card and make 1/2/2 is not amazing, and 3 mana sorcery to destroy a creature or planeswalker is really not where you want to be either. Now for Commence the Endgame, you could do this. This is again part of that Amass package where you're making just a big zombie. This card really is only good if you have the Dreadhorde Invasion, which we're also taking that card out here. Otherwise, you're just paying 6 mana to draw 2 cards, so not really ideal. And then Maskwood Nexus, we don't really need it since we're taking out most of the Eternalized stuff anyways, and making sure all of our creatures are zombies, so if not all of them, right? So that's really why we're taking all these out. Like I said, you could take more out. I think it's worth taking out 3 more lands, maybe putting in 3 more cards, but just, out of the 15 cards that I wanted to add now, we've got lots of great creatures, a few instants and sorceries, a few enchantments, and an artifact, but Bone Miser being the first creature, you're going to be discarding lots of cards. Why not get value off of it, right? Bone Miser is also a zombie, so really great here. You can either be making creatures, when you discard lands, you add mana, and whenever you discard non-creature, non-lands, you draw a card, which is amazing with your commander's ability. Just keep in mind, if you're doing this with your commander's ability, you don't want to be discarding a land because that mana will fizzle. So try not to do that. Diagraph Colossus is really good. it's going to be a massive card, and then when we're casting zombie spells, which is most of our deck, we're making more zombie tokens. So a great way to make tokens. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, another fantastic way to gain a lot of life. I think this deck could use a bit more life gain in it, and this is a great way to gain a big chunk at once, sort of make up for the lack of life gain we kind of have in the deck. Noxious Ghoul is a fun card. 5 mana, 3/3 when it or another zombie enters the battlefield. All non-zombies get -1/-1 until end of turn, so kind of a semi-board wipe, which is pretty nice. We don't have a ton of single target removal in here, so being able to deal with our opponent's board multiple times with the board wipes we have is pretty nice. Verena Lich Queen, apparently also from Amonkhet, who knew, is doing exactly what our commander wants to be doing. We're drawing cards, we're discarding cards. It also gains us life, which is nice. And then we can exile 2 instant or sorceries from our graveyard or 2 lands or something to make, some zombie tokens. So really the best of all the worlds there. Will Help the Rock Cleaver, I thought, was a great add as well. Sort of giving you a little bit more card draw, and then sort of giving you some faux board wipe protection in the deck. I thought it was really neat add to have, and synergizes with some of the cards that can use Decayed Zombies really well. And then since we are discarding cards in a blue deck that runs a lot of creatures, might as well have Wonder. We took out the Amass card that gives your tokens flying, but this gives every creature flying, and we're getting it into the graveyard. We're activating it by doing our game plan already. We don't have to cast a 5 mana card or reanimate a 5 mana card to get that ability, so really great there. And then a newer card from the Foundation set, Zola Shore. Ward pay 2 life, but tap, you can cast a zombie creature card from your graveyard this turn, so this is honestly great, and sort of another reanimator card that you can reanimate multiple things as long as you pay the mana, so that's pretty great. And then Living Death as a sorcery is fantastic. Windfall as well. So this sort of fills your graveyard, Windfall does, and then Living Death gets your graveyard back out in the battlefield. Just be careful, you don't have a ton of graveyard removal in this deck. It doesn't come with Bojuka Bog either, so you're really struggling to deal with your opponent's graveyard. So this can be a double-edged sword, but if you can use it in the right instance, it's a game changer. And then Deadly Dispute is sort of a way to, I guess, sacrifice a zombie that you have, draw 2 cards, make a treasure. So if you need instant speed to give your creatures 2 more power, you can sacrifice a creature that's being blocked to buff the rest of your board, so that's nice. Herald's Horn is semi-card draw, but also a little bit of ramp, making your zombies cost 1 less, so really solid there. And then Enchantments, we have Funeral Room / Awakening Hall. Funeral Room fits the sort of aristocrat theme that the Wizards team is going for. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, and that's for 3 mana. And then the other door is 8 mana. When you unlock this door, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So really solid there to reanimate your whole board. And then 2 more incredibly strong blue enchantments for zombies. One is Rooftop Storm. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie creature spells you cast. So this includes your commander, but you do have to pay command tax. And then Necro Duality is amazing. Whenever a non-token zombie you control enters, you make a token that's a copy. So really good there. Most of our zombies are non-legendary, so having copies of them is just going to be so nice. So yeah, I mean, that's the deck. Like I said, there's still some more cards you could take out to make it stronger, but here's just a quick little upgrade to make it, really a deck to beat in your local play group. Let me know in the comments below what cards you would take out, what cards you would put in. I'm going to be doing another Precon upgrade of the Energy Precon as well, coming up soon, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And otherwise, yeah, y'all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.